I know that is the first of many because we are really organizing, and as we have throughout the 2 years, people have responded very positively, especially when we're asking and not telling them what to do. This is a team effort. I want to thank all of our community partners who have been crucial in boosting our vaccination rates. We have made really good progress, but we need to continue the momentum. We do want to make sure that Rhode Island is the #1 boosted state in the country. Then we know that we're looking forward to a good balance to our school year and a strong summer for the people to enjoy in our state, and also it impacts our economy, and we need to keep people working, keep people earning money, because we know that is crucial to the viability of the state of Rhode Island. If you're hearing this message today and want to have a clinic in your congregation, reach out to Pastor Chris. Reach out to our office. Reach out to the network of our clergy and our leadership in all our churches throughout the state of Rhode Island. We'd be very happy to respond and make that happen. And we appreciate the help that is being provided in the faith base, along with other communities in the state. And this work is going to continue, as Dr. McDonald has said. So with that, I'll leave the microphone to Dr. McDonald. Come on up and tell us why this is a good day on Wednesday.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Governor McKee, and good morning, everybody. It's good to be here with you again. It's great to be here with Commissioner Infante Green as well, and Superintendent Martinez, and Principal Valera, and the whole team at Lillian Feinstein Elementary. I don't know about you guys, but I think it's fun to be in a school. I have many positive memories from being a student myself as a kid, and I think about just the educators who influenced me over my life, and I think about the person I became, the values of integrity, just honesty, just hard work, and just going and chasing a dream. I took all that from teachers as much as anyone else, and I just really thank the educators that are here, but just throughout my own life. It's been wonderful. One of the things that we're going to talk about today is why it's so important to get kids vaccinated, but really, school nurses, teachers, you play a really important role in helping get our kids to trust the vaccine is safe and effective. It is a safe and effective vaccine. But a lot of times we need to hear that message from people we know and trust. As the governor shared, it's critical we get our vaccination rates as high as possible. As we look towards moving towards the endemic state, and I'm cognizant that endemic is not a word that most people use around their kitchen table, but it's really about this preventable, treatable disease being stabilized in our community and in our state. And stabilization is what we're looking for, just moving on with stability towards our future together. And it just, I think one of the things we want to get back to too is it is a preventable, treatable disease. And I want to give you some numbers. So when you get the primary series, you're 6 times less likely to get hospitalized because of COVID-19. So think about that. It's a preventable, treatable disease, particularly for serious COVID. You're 6 times less likely if you get the primary series. And that's looking at our own Rhode Island data. But when you look at the booster, the numbers are astronomically better, and it's stunning a little bit here. But if you're boosted, you're 55 times less likely to get hospitalized because of COVID than someone who's not vaccinated. So that's 55 times less likely. So, I think we just have to look at this wow. You don't have to be a math whiz to grab that number there. 55 times less likely is a huge number if you're boosted, if you're up to date with that vaccine. So as we're here in the elementary school, though, I want to talk a little bit about why I want kids to get vaccinated. And I'm a pediatrician. I've been a pediatrician for almost 32 years. I've seen tens of thousands of children throughout my career. The 5 to 11 group, we have a little less than half of that population vaccinated. And, I think we just have to put that in perspective, is that when I listen to parents, what they're telling me is they're worried about long-term complications of the vaccine. What I tell parents is, if we've had a problem with the vaccine, we've discovered that in a few months. This is really the most well-studied vaccine in the history of our planet. It's the most heavily monitored vaccine in the history of our planet. We're talking about billions and billions of doses of vaccine have been given at this point. And I assure parents, this is safe and effective for your child. You know, and I think some parents are saying, well, I just don't know. But I think it's important to remember, not making a decision is making a decision. And it's putting us in a place where your kids are at risk a little bit. And it's really important to remember that although we don't see a lot of serious disease in kids with COVID, that's true for almost every disease I treat, you know? And it's important to remember that it's like we just want to protect every kid possible, not just to keep our kids out of the hospital, but to protect the family members that well. If you can protect the kid, you protect the family, we don't spread that disease throughout the home there. Having said that, I'm vaccinated and boosted. All my kids are vaccinated and boosted. My wife is vaccinated and boosted. I recommend that for my families. I just ask us as a community to look at the opportunity we have in front of us. We have a safe and effective vaccine. It's been out well over a year. Many people have gotten it and done very well with it. And it's really what's gotten us to the point we are today. When we think about why we are at the stabilized point, we're approaching the endemic state, it's because we've had safe and effective vaccines. With that, let me turn it over to Commissioner Infante Green for her thoughts.
Good morning, everyone. So I want to begin by thanking Principal Valerio for hosting us here today and for being in this wonderful space. I also want to thank Governor McKee and our COVID-19 response team for their leadership in making sure that Rhode Islanders are vaccinated and boosted every day so that we can keep our students and staff safe and healthy. PPSD community has been hard at work expanding access to vaccinations and boosters. As the governor mentioned, we're here today because of an upcoming this Sunday, February 27th, this school will be hosting one of the 2 sites that will host clinics in Providence for ages 5 through 11. Why this site? We have a 16% vaccination rate. These events, for those of you that are interested, which should be everyone, are from 11 to 2 p.m., and you can visit providenceschools.org to register, get a full schedule, and for more details. I have to say that I've had the privilege of being in this job during the pandemic. And there's a word that was used here today that I have to say, it made me feel so good. The word treatable. Think about where we were 2 years ago. Every day was something new, but it is treatable. We have the tools at our disposal. So on Sunday, that event will be open to everyone. Come and get the tools you need. We don't think about polio anymore because we got vaccinated. Let's do it. Let's not make healthcare political. That was not in my talking points. But I will say that this past Sunday, Providence had an amazing turnout. Over 150 people were vaccinated. Over 45,000 meals were distributed. That's really the work that's happening as we work together to keep moving forward. With that said, I want to take a minute to urge you. If you have not gotten vaccinated, if your kids have not gotten vaccinated, I know you're tired of hearing it. But guys, I'll tell you a quick story. I ran into the governor at an event with my then 13-year-old son, who went up to the governor, and I was so embarrassed. He said, "Governor, do we have to wear masks at school?" And he stomped his foot, and the governor looked at me like, I guess you didn't talk about it at home. And nobody wants to be here. And the answer is, when we're in that space, we have to all do our part so we can go back to being in a better space. I get it. I'm a mother. I got it. I get the same complaints at home. But it is also my job to get my child vaccinated. He has been vaccinated, and so has my 11-year-old daughter. I ask you, make the decision to move Rhode Island into the place where we need to be, and that is making sure that our students are safe in the classroom. So, one of the things that are really important as we start thinking about this work, it's time for you to schedule that appointment. I'm going to give you the information. Go get a pen. C19vaccineri.org or call 844-930-1779. I will repeat that again later in case you didn't get your pen. It is critical for communities like Providence, where 35% of eligible students have completed their primary vaccination series, compared to communities like East Greenwich, which is at 79. It's hard to hear that. Quiero tomar un minuto para pedirle a la comunidad latina, a aquellos que son elegibles, que no han vacunado a sus niños, o no le han reforzado la vacuna. Por favor, este es el momento. Se lo vamos a poner fácil. Si desea programar una cita para vacunarse, busque la clínica más cercana a ustedes. Vayan a la C19, B corta, accineri.org o llame al 844-930-1779. Le pido a los padres, por favor, si no han vacunado a sus niños, piensen eso. Nosotros no pensamos en el polio ya. Acuérdense que muchos años atrás teníamos la vacuna que dejaba la marquita. Señores, eso es algo muy importante para nuestra comunidad. Tomen esta oportunidad. Vamos a tener las clínicas abiertas para todos. Piénsenlo, hablen con los pediatras, muy importante. Aquí en Providence tenemos un 35% de los niños elegibles que se han vacunado. Al opuesto que en East Greenwich están en 79. ¿Por qué? Por favor, este es el momento de unirnos y trabajar como una comunidad para poder llegar a lo que nosotros teníamos antes, la normalidad. Le voy a contar un cuento breve. Mi hijo conoció al gobernador y fue donde él, sin yo preguntarle, le preguntó, ¿por qué tenemos que ponernos mascarilla en la escuela? Y a mí por poco se me cae la cara. Pero él le respondió, cuando estemos ya seguros y salvos todos y vacunados, vamos a llegar a ese punto. Por favor, vamos a trabajar juntos para llegar a tomar esas decisiones para nuestras familias. So, as we've done since vaccines were first approved in public school to the public, we will continue to work with our local school leaders to make sure students and families in every zip code get theirs. With the focus on schools that have the lowest rates, the governor mentioned we are specifically asking schools with vaccination rates under 20% to host a clinic. 20%. This is especially critical in elementary schools since vaccines for students 5 to 11 were just approved in November. And we're seeing a lag. Rhode Islanders don't want to lag in anything. We have led the way and we need to continue to lead. Vaccinations are safe and effective and are key strategy to preventing the spread and keeping students learning in person. And we know that our kids need to be in the classroom. Academic, social, emotionally, we know. We've tried it the other way. This is what we need to do. Last Friday, RIDOH shared their latest guidance for K-12 school leaders to help them make the best decisions possible in their school districts. Because it will be a localized decision. As RIDOH has shared, their data shows a rapid decline in number of COVID cases statewide. We're optimistic that we'll continue heading in the right direction. Throughout the last few weeks, we've been working with RIDOH and districts to help them review the data and create guidance that works for their school communities. While the executive order on school masking sunsets March 4th, we can't emphasize that districts will still may require or may recommend masks. It's not an automatic. For example, in Providence, we will be continuing to require masks. We're going to keep our eyes on the data, promote vaccines for families across the districts, urge testing as recommended, and working at the Department of Health to support PPSD schools to do the best in our ability to continue to increase the vaccination rate. As always, we're grateful to the team at RIDOH and the Governor's Office for their thoughtful leadership. And now I'd like to hand it over to our superintendent, Javier Montañez.
Thank you, Commissioner. I don't know if anyone ever knows, but standing over here is really scary. But we'll get over that, right? First and foremost, I want to say thank you, Commissioner, for introducing me, and good morning to all. As you heard the Commissioner say, my name is Dr. Javier Montañez, Acting Superintendent in Providence Public School. Having worked in education for nearly 3 decades, that's a lot to say, I can tell you that we focus a lot on numbers to measure performance. Whether it may be a math quiz, your RICAS scores, or your attendance. And now, with the pandemic, we have a new focus on numbers, which is the vaccine rates. That's because we know that vaccines are one of the best tools to keep our students and staff safe. Vaccines also help us keep our students in the classroom, where we know they learn best. Also, PPSD has made it a priority to give our students and families access to vaccines through free clinics hosted at our schools. I am proud to say that more than 70 vaccine clinics have been held in Providence Public School buildings over the past year. We already have 17 clinics scheduled throughout the next month, including a pair of clinics for students ages 5 through 11 this coming Sunday. As the Commissioner stated and mentioned, this is the age group that we really want to see the vaccine rate increase. We're also taking important steps to meet the needs of our community. For example, we have staffed our clinics with interpreters because Spanish speakings are such an important part of our PPSD family, and we want to make sure that everyone gets the information they need to make the choice of getting vaccinated. We hold clinics on weekends, after school hours, but we also know that transportation and scheduling can be a barrier for so many families. So we're making sure vaccines are also available during school hours. In fact, the week of March 7th, we'll be holding the High School Vax Week for Providence schools. Every high school student will have the opportunity to get vaccinated or boosted. We're sending information and consent forms. We need the consent forms. Please, parents, sign them, send them back to schools. For every high school student and family this week. We already see the impact of some of these efforts. Some of our schools already have 60% student fully vaccinated. But that's still a lot of work to do, especially our elementary schools, where the rate's only 20%. So this is my call to PPSD families. We'll keep providing easy access for vaccine and answering any questions you have. But this is a two-way street. We need you to take the next step and get your child vaccinated. Lastly, we know that testing also plays a key role in keeping our students safe and in the classroom. So heading into the February vacation, PPSD provided free COVID tests for every student and staff members to use the weekend before returning from the break to help us limit the spread of the virus. We also returning to school next week and a staggered schedule. This way we can test the students as they come into the building. This will give us a better chance to spot any community spread. This approach with vaccine is the foundation, and testing and masking on top of that. will put us in the right road to making sure everyone is safe and finish a strong school year. Thank you.
This is for anyone, maybe Superintendent, you kind of just spoke to this. Is there any concern this time around with February break, students returning for any outbreaks? I know that's happened in the past when students return from summer break or spring break as well.
I didn't hear you clear. Can you ask the question again?
Yeah, sorry about that. So with February break, is there any concern with any outbreaks in terms of COVID transmission with students coming back to school? I know that's been an issue in the past, with students coming back from spring break or summer break.
We can't predict what's going to happen. However, what we can do and what we have control of is making sure that we do everything within our power to make sure that when students return to school, that everyone is safe.
So can I just add to that? That's why at-home tests were sent, right? So that parents can make that decision. You take the test. Remember, we've been hearing that it's about personal responsibility. So that's what we are going to continue to talk about, this personal responsibility. So in all cases, get tested. The superintendent sent out the tests. Take them. Take them before you come back to school.
So I don't know who this is for, but everyone has talked about having metrics to determine and guide policy. What is the metric that is determining when the mask mandate in the Providence public schools will lift?
So I think any of us can answer that. We're looking into that. We're working very closely with RIDOH to determine that. Right now, we're focusing in on the vaccines. And anyone, as we said, that has lower than 20%, that's where we're going to target. We're being very strategic about where we have the vaccines, what we do the work. It's an ongoing process. What we've learned with this pandemic is that we have to be flexible. That's the key word here, flexibility, and we're going to keep looking at the numbers and the data, and we're going to keep working. 150 were done last week. We'll see how many get done this week, and we'll continue, and then we'll make decisions accordingly.
And then one follow-up, this is for Dr. McDonald, not on schools, but vaccination numbers overall. As the governor said, the current numbers are that 99%, essentially all adults, have gotten at least one shot. But very less than half have gotten a booster, and there's a huge number, I think 15% or so, who haven't even gotten a second shot. Are those numbers credible? Are you confident in those numbers, or is it possible that boosters and second doses are being reported as first shots?
Yeah, so here's the numbers I keep in my mind, and just by the way, it's like you need a program guide for the numbers every day here, right? But 38% have been boosted in the state. So that's a 38%. That means they're up to date with the vaccine. 80% have completed the primary series. That's good, but 99% have had one shot. I really think it speaks to a larger point, though. It's funny. I learned this in the Navy. The Navy told me they would never lie to me, but the truth would change. All right? I rolled with it. In the Navy, you do these things, right? So if you got, the message that, gosh, I need to get 2 vaccines, I'm done forever, that's just the way science is. We get new information. You need to be up to date. In other words, science changed. The virus mutated. So 2 doses isn't enough. We need people to get 3 doses. When I look at what we can do for our people in Rhode Island to protect us for the fall coming up and for next year, the best thing I have for you is the booster vaccine. I got to get as many people as possible up to date. And to the question earlier about what's the metric for schools, it's really about minimizing risk. Really, it's about as many kids as possible as vaccinated and getting decreased case counts in the community. The more people are vaccinated, the less cases you get. And it really is one of those things where we have treatment for it too, but the treatment's really for 12 and older. That 5 to 11 crowd, I don't really have a great treatment for you. I have the vaccine for you. I hope that helps.
Quote of the year there from Dr. McDonald as well. The question's actually for the commissioner. In an op-ed this morning in the Providence Journal, the chair of the Barrington English Department, Kevin Blanchard, says that there's an inequity at play because teachers in his district are being required to be vaccinated and boosted while students are not. Do you see that as an inequity, and do you sense that at any time there'll be a Department of Education policy requiring all students be vaccinated to the fullest extent possible at any time in the foreseeable future?
I don't know if I would call it an inequity. I think that adults make the decision, and locally in Barrington, they have been really aggressive about it. In terms of vaccinations for school-age children, RIDE doesn't make decisions on vaccination. We're working with the Department of Health. I don't think that that's something that we're ready to be there. We're going to continue to work on the vaccination clinics and continue to push. And Barrington has done a great job. Barrington's at about 79%. And I'm sure that the ones that they're still working on the rest of the numbers that they need. But we're not there yet. We're still trying to figure out what localized approaches will look like.
And just very quickly, you mentioned more success in East Greenwich or just now Barrington than certainly Providence or this building we're at right now. What's your gut on the main cause for that?
My gut, and it could only be my gut, right? Because I don't have all the information, is, there's these communities that have lower numbers have been personally impacted in a way that other communities have not. So there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of, concern. A lot of the students in our schools have lost parents, are now living with other relatives. So there's a lot of uncertainty, fear, mistrust, all the things that we think about. And what we need to do is do a better job of communicating how safe the vaccines are, and they need to hear from people they trust, pediatricians, local communities. As much as I hate being thought of as a bureaucrat, I am one, right? You have to hear from the people that you trust. Who are those people? Who do you trust? That's who the community needs to hear from.
My question's for the governor. This is on a slightly separate topic. This is regarding the $3,000 retention bonuses. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. McDonald, this is for you. There are talks that there could be a potential fourth dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. Is the state able to support that? And do you think, to Bill's point, that the vaccine will become a regular shot, like the flu shot, for example, for students and others?
Yeah, so, really you're asking, do we foresee a periodic booster like a flu vaccine? I think that depends on how many more variants we see. So really what I see is this: if we see new variants that aren't covered very well by the vaccine, then you're going to see a periodic booster, and that's possible. That's what our future might hold. Your other question was about what Bill was asking about schools.
It will become a regular vaccination requirement, like the flu shot is for students to go to class and school.
Yeah, so it's specifically just that we are not looking right now at making this a vaccine requirement at the Department of Health. Just for a little timing perspective, the vaccine for 5 to 11-year-olds became available November 5th. That really isn't that long ago. So I think parents need to have some time to get used to this idea, ask the questions. Really, I think one of the things Commissioner Infante Green just said, which is really powerful, is if you really think about why people aren't getting the vaccine, you really ask the main reason. We have a trust problem. And the trust problem is not something I can fix with one press conference, my friends. This is a historic issue in our culture. We have a trust problem. And it's really about building trust. And I think to some degree, when you look at the efforts that we're doing right now, it's about we want to build as much trust as possible and be worthy of that trust. If we do that, I think the vaccine rates will get better. So we'll have to wait and see what we do here.
Oh, this is simple. The Department of Health and you guys have to do a better job. And I'll give you an idea. Meet with every radio station on it in the state of Rhode Island that speaks Spanish, because it's not trust in the commercial that you're putting out in English and in Spanish. You need to use real community leaders. Not because somebody have a name, it's going to penetrate to the community. You guys are sending the wrong message. You need to change that voice in English and in Spanish. You got a lot of community leaders that can do the message. You got school superintendent. You got directors of school. Use them, and you will see how we change. Now, who is responsible to make that change, that decision? The governor or the Department of Health? Because you need to change the strategy. you really want this to work in the Latino community. Who's responsible for that change?
Thank you for the suggestion. I love your idea. I agree with you. I'm going to employ as many trusted voices as I can. Couldn't agree with you more, by the way. I completely agree with you. People want to hear from people they know. I'm happy to help. I'm sure the governor would be happy to help too.
Doctor, how do you shift from a strategic standpoint from pandemic to endemic? What will change? I assume you're looking ahead to this change. What can we expect in terms of a change?
Yeah, so when we use the word pandemic, that speaks to basically a global epidemic, and that's what we've been living with the last 2 years. By the way, Monday is the 2nd-year anniversary of patient number 1 in our state. When we move to endemic, we're talking about living with this. We are working on an endemic plan at the Department of Health. What an endemic plan means, like, what are metrics we can use, mostly based on hospitalizations that we need to say, maybe we need to scale up. And when I think about scaling up in the future, I think more about recommendations from us at the Department of Health about what are some tips we're going to give you. Like, one of the things that's common in other cultures, like when I was in the Navy, I was stationed in Japan for 2 years. It was very common for people to wear masks in Japan. During the winter, for example, if someone had a cold, they always wore a mask. But what you can expect is our message can be tailored to the prevalence of cases and the impact on our hospitals. But the impact on our hospitals is going to be the most important metric. The case counts is a secondary metric. We'll use that as well. You're still going to see isolation. In other words, if you're sick, we're still going to say you shouldn't be going to work. By the way, it was never okay to go to work sick. I know we did that as Americans. We're rugged individuals. We go to work sick. That was always a bad idea in the first place. Quarantine will move to a recommendation. You know, at some point we'll just say, here's what you should do. You know what I mean? But when you look at our endemic plan, one of the things that we really are going to focus on too is, by the way, it wouldn't hurt us to get a little bit healthier. One of the reasons why we as Americans had such a hard time with this pandemic is we're obese. We have too much diabetes. We have too much hypertension. We have too much preventable chronic diseases. Now, me telling you to lose weight doesn't help, but me working with everyone in government and with my community about improving social determinants of health. This matters, right? So part of an endemic plan means I want to make sure you have good schools to go to. I want to make sure you have safe neighborhoods to live in. I want to make sure you have jobs that are reasonable. I want to make sure you have a safe life a little bit. And that really gets to the larger message of public health. Like when you think about the health department, you must think like, do we go to bed every night worrying about everybody in the state? Turns out we do. It is a lot of reason to worry about you guys, you know what I mean? And so there's a lot of things that we try to do to improve your lives every day. You know, for some people, you just discovered the health department 2 years ago. We've been here for over 100 years. We're going to be here for another 100. But we're going to be working on things that we've always done, like social determinants of health. So you just don't stay healthy. You stay healthy. Because here's what I need to do. If I can get you to lose weight, lose your diabetes, lose your hypertension, if you get COVID, I can keep you out of the hospital. Because I look at who ends up in the hospital, the high-risk individuals have these adverse health conditions. I got to do what I can. I can't prevent every chronic condition. I can't prevent every cancer. I can prevent some. I'm going to do what I can to prevent most.
Do health equity zones play a role in that, or do you anticipate
Health equity zones are
change?
really important to us. They're synonymous with the Department of Health. And health equity zones, just so people know, not everybody knows what a health equity zone is, but we have regions in the state that just, it's like customized public health to your neighborhood. What a health equity zone really is personalized and customized public health to your neighborhood, working on the social determinants of health that matter in your neighborhood. That's really what a health equity zone is, and they do great work for us. Thank you.
Dr. McDonald, if you could join me again. This question is regarding, if you will, COVID conditions affecting the incarcerated Rhode Islanders here. Number one, and by the way, there are serious allegations about terrible conditions in the ACI and the Wyatt. Number one, do prisoners have the option to receive a booster? What is the availability of masks? What are vaccination rates at the Wyatt and the ACI? And when and where was the last, if you will, health inspection, health audit at either of these organizations, and where was it documented?
Yeah, so there's certainly plenty of vaccine available for anybody who's incarcerated in the state. There's plenty of masks available as well. We don't routinely inspect the Adult Correctional Institute nor the federal prison for things like that. So I couldn't tell you when that was done. I'm sorry, I don't know that information.